Hi guys, we are drafting the circle skirt today, and in order to do that you need the radius measurement and you need your skirt length. In order to figure out the radius measurement, you need to know the diameter of your circle, not the diameter, the circumference of your circle, which happens to be the waist measurement. So you'll measure your client. Today my client is this little half scale dress form, and I'm measuring at the waist where I want the skirt to fit, and I got 13 inches. So my waist measurement is 13 inches, and I'll also be referring to that as a circumference too, and I kind of talk about how to figure out the radius measurement that we need. I'm going to show you 3 different ways to find it. And as far as skirt length, that's pretty subjective. It's really how long do you want the skirt to fall. I'm just picking to the end of where my dress form falls. So I'm just going to say 7 inches, but you can do a short skirt if you want. If you want it only 5 inches, or maybe you want it long, 11. It's kind of a designer's call at that point, but you do need to decide that. So I'm going to go with 7-inch length and 13-inch waist measurement for this project. Okay, so let's talk about the circle skirt. I'm going to do my best to try to explain it to you. Basically, you're just drafting a big circle. So we're going to do a little bit of math and talk about it. So to start with, I guess this is what your pattern will look like when you're done. If you can imagine the wearer wearing it, the smaller circle goes around their waist, and the bigger circle falls at their hem. So it's pretty simple. We will be drafting it just on the half, and then we'll cut 2 and we'll sew it up at the seams. So there'll actually be some side seams right here. But to figure this out, a great starting point is to know what the waist measurement is of your finished skirt that you would like. So I measured my dress form, and I'm working on the little half scale dress form, and my waist was 13 inches right here. Okay, so in math, I guess algebra, they would call the distance around a circle the circumference. So my circumference, I guess I'll write this here, equals 13 inches. So when I'm done, from this starting point all the way around here, that better be 13 inches long so that it fits around the waist, okay? So in order to draft it, we need to figure out this distance halfway here, and that's called the radius, okay? Another fun measurement is the diameter, which would be the radius doubled. So the whole thing from here to here is called the diameter, just halfway is the radius. And we actually need the radius is what they want. Okay, so in order to figure out the radius, it's easier to figure out the diameter. And we use pi. Have you guys heard of pi? It's like this famous number for like never ending, I guess. But we can round it to 3.14. Do you ever hear people talk about pi on March 14th? I don't know, maybe this year you will. But so in order, if we have the circumference, which we know is 13, in order to figure out the diameter will equal the circumference divided by pi. So the diameter will equal 13 divided by pi, which is 3.14 approximately. So when I do that math, and you know what? I'm pulling out my calculator. I'm not ashamed of it. 13 divided by 3.14, I get 4.14, and I'm rounding to the hundreds, that's fine. So that means the distance from here to here is 4.14, but I only want half. I only want it up to the radius. So I have to divide this number by 2. And my radius equals 2.07. That's how I figured it out. Now, that's the explanation way. But another fun way is go to a calculator. The internet is amazing. There's all kinds of circle calculators in the world. Awesome. So this one I'm saying I have my circumference, given C circumference, find all these other things, area, radius, and diameter. Done. That's what I want. My circumference is 13 inches. I say calculate, and boom, there it is. They say my radius is 2.069, and I would round to just to only have 2 digits, so it'd be 2.07. And guess what? That's what I got from my math. So there are the calculators that you can use, but sometimes it's nice to know what you're doing as well. So now there's a third way too. Your book on page 290 has a little cheat sheet, if you will. And what's kind of neat about it is that everything is rounded up to the nearest, eighth. Because, in pattern drafting and sewing, we really like to work in eighths. I do not want to figure out the fraction of 0.07. I would definitely round it up to the nearest eighth, which would be 125. It would be 2.125 because this is 1/8. So anyways, if you look in your book, I'm going to pull that. Hold on one second. The way it works is that you need to know what your circumference is, and they're calling that length around the waist. I was calling it circumference. So mine was 13. And then we are doing a full circle skirt. So then we go all the way to the column, and look at that. They're saying your radius will be 2 1/8. So that's a real fast reference to have. So if you know, okay, my client's waist is 30 inches, I want to make a circle skirt, your radius would be 4 3/4 in order to follow the drafting that we're going to do. So, if you have this chart handy, it's really easy, but if you don't, it's good to know how to figure out your radius just in case you don't have the cheat sheet handy there for you. Okay, so our radius going forward is going to be 2 1/8, okay? And now I'm going to turn the page and I'm going to start drafting our circle skirt. The paper needed, your book is saying 30 inches by 60 inches, but that's full scale. We're only doing half scale. I think as long as my number's double, that should work. So as long as my paper is 26 by 14, I should be okay. And they want us to go ahead and fold the paper in half. So, go ahead and do that. Okay, so my fold, and yeah. Okay. I'll go right here. Okay. Okay. Okay, so on page 292, I've already folded my paper and I'm looking at figure 1. My paper is folded, so at the top they want me to mark X in the corner up there. And then I just need my radius measurement, which is 2 1/8. And then I also need my skirt length, and they want me to include my seam allowance apparently. So because this is a notebook sample, I'm actually going to leave the edge raw. So my skirt length, I think 7 inches looks nice, but you can make yours longer or shorter. It's definitely your choice there. Okay, so now they're saying they're playing with the measuring tape to be a circle tool, and they say get a push pin and to secure our tape at X at the 1 inch mark. So I'm pinning my tape at 1 inch, and then align the tape at the fold and place a pencil through the hole on Y. So I think I must have skipped one. I think we need to actually mark where Y is. So Y is our radius measurement, again, which is 2 1/8. So if I'm already starting at 1 inch, get this right on. Okay, 1 inch. 2 1/8 is right here. And, oops, no, that's not right. 1 inch. This is 1 inch, 2 inches, and 1/8 would be right here. And I might just use my other ruler to do it. I guess I have this guy set up. Okay, 1 inch, 2 inch, and 1/8 is right there and there. Okay, and I should just kind of mark it all the way around. Okay, there we are. So there's my waist. Now I'm gonna measure from Y to Z, needs to be 7 inches. So right now this is Y. I should probably write that this is Y. So again, Y is at 3 1/8, so I have to add 7. So 10 1/8 would be 7 inches. So here's 10 1/8. And I'm just gonna go around again and just kind of keep marking it. Okay, and I'm done. So this is fold here. I'll cut it out. I'll label my pattern. This is also the grain line. You could have the grain line right here or right here, to be honest with you. So maybe we'll just put it right here on my fold. That will be our grain line. This is our circle skirt. We need to cut 2. Go ahead and put the date. And then the notebook sample name as well. And we are ready to cut it out. Cool. So we're going to cut this out of fabric. I'll cut 2 and I'm going to sew it together in the side seams. And when I'm done, I'll have a nice flowy circle skirt. Okay, I'm ready to cut out my circle skirt. So I have 2 layers of fabric here because I need to cut out 2. This pattern is not placed on the fold anywhere. It was folded when I drafted it, but then I unfolded it. So I actually I don't really need to fold my fabric. I just need 2 layers of it. So there's a fold here, but I'm ignoring it. And I'm gonna trace out my pattern, and then we have to add seam allowance here because this seam will be sewn together. I'm just leaving my hem raw because it's a notebook sample. And then normally you would sew a waistband or some facing. So you would also want to add seam allowance at the waist as well. But since mine's a notebook sample, I'm leaving my waist raw just so I could see where my waist hits when I put it on my little dress form. So I sewed up my skirt pattern. I actually ended up only sewing one of the side seams together. That way I could get it on and off of the form, so I'll just pin it at the other seam. It's a notebook sample. I'm not going to do a zipper right now, and I could kind of go ahead and test the fit on it and see what I think. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it together right now. Okay, so my skirt definitely turned out too big around the waist, and part of it is when you cut a curve on fabric, it's gonna stretch out immediately. So really I should have probably sewed in a stay stitch right away, and even that, I don't know, it probably still would have stretched some. So I think to revise this pattern, I would go back and go ahead and make my radius a little bit smaller and sew in a stay stitch right away. Another thing I do want to point out is you can kind of observe our flare. We got a lot of flare. This is kind of a stiff structured fabric. Your book talks about that. You know, maybe you want flare at the side, that's super fun, but maybe you don't want it necessarily like right under your belly right here. So if that's the case, they have you redesign the pattern a little bit. You see in the book where this gets kind of pulled up. And as you pull it up, you can kind of control the flare a little bit to end up being slightly flatter, just so that you don't get a huge full thing right in the front. So that's a little technique your book is trying to share with you as well. So, but anyways, this is it, the circle skirt. Woohoo! It's good. The fun part is spinning.